you think of the deadliest ship disaster in history, one name comes to mind: Titanic. Right? Wrong. The unsinkable ship that sank in the icy Atlantic, taking over 1,500 people with it, has become a permanent fixture in our collective memory thanks to blockbuster movies and endless documentaries. It's a powerful story of hubris and tragedy. But what if I told you that as horrific as it was, the Titanic doesn't even crack the top 5 deadliest shipwrecks? What if its fame has completely overshadowed far greater catastrophes at sea, including one with a death toll 6 times higher? These are the real deadliest ship disasters in history, many of which have been lost to time or buried by war. So why have these colossal tragedies, which claimed thousands more lives, been almost erased from public memory? Let's get into it. Section 1. The baseline. The disasters we know and don't. To really grasp the scale of the disasters we're about to cover, we need a starting point. We'll begin with the one everyone knows and one you probably don't. Number 10. RMS Titanic. On April 15, 1912, the RMS Titanic, the largest ship afloat, hit an iceberg and sank on its maiden voyage. Marketed as unsinkable, its sinking became one of the most famous disasters in history. The final death toll is estimated to be around 1,517 people, partly because it didn't have enough lifeboats for everyone on board. It's a stunning story, but in the grand scheme of maritime tragedies, its death toll is dwarfed by many others. Number 9. The Taiping. Just a few decades after the Titanic, another tragedy unfolded that's been called the Oriental Titanic, yet it remains largely unknown outside of Asia. On January 27, 1949, during the chaotic end of the Chinese Civil War, the steamer Taiping left Shanghai for Taiwan. It was dangerously overloaded, carrying over 1,500 refugees, nearly triple its capacity of 580. Sailing at night without lights due to a military curfew, the Taiping collided with a cargo ship and sank. More than 1,500 people died, a death toll rivaling the Titanic. This wasn't a ship of luxury, it was a ship of escape, and its story is one of sheer desperation. Section 2. Overcrowding and neglect. The peacetime killer's war is responsible for some of the greatest losses at sea, but some of the most horrifying disasters happened in times of peace, often due to a familiar deadly cocktail: overcrowding, neglect, and human error. Number 8. MV Spice Islander 1. On September 10, 2011, the ferry MV Spice Islander 1 set off on a routine trip between 2 Tanzanian islands. Its official capacity was around 690 people, but on that night, it was carrying far more. A later government report revealed a shocking estimate: somewhere between 2,500 and 3,500 passengers. 4 hours into the voyage, the ferry capsized. Survivors said the boat listed heavily before the engines failed and it just rolled over. While about 620 people were rescued, a government report in 2012 stated that over 1,500 people were killed. It was a modern tragedy fueled by a timeless problem: dangerously overloaded ferries. Number 7. The Texing long before steam engines, a massive Chinese junk ship known as the Texing, or True Star, met a similar fate. In 1822, this enormous 3-masted ship set sail from China, carrying a crew of 200, but it was also packed with over 1,600 emigrants, hoping for a new life in Java. In a rush, the captain tried a shortcut through the treacherous Gaspar Strait. The gamble was fatal. The Texing hit a reef and sank in about 100 feet of water. An estimated 1,600 people lost their lives. Only around 200 were rescued 2 days later by a passing English merchant ship. The wreck lay hidden for nearly 180 years until its discovery in 1999, revealing a vast cargo of porcelain that went down with the 1,600 souls. Number 6. MV Goya. On September 26, 2002, one of the worst peacetime maritime disasters of this century happened off the coast of the Gambia. The Senegalese ferry MV Goya was on its regular route, but it was anything but a regular day. Designed for 536 passengers, it was carrying an estimated 1,928 people. When the ship sailed into a storm, it capsized and sank in just 5 minutes. No distress call was ever sent. For hours, survivors clung to the overturned hull, their screams carrying across the water, but the official rescue was agonizingly slow. Local fishermen arrived first, pulling anyone they could from the sea. In the end, only 64 survivors were found. An estimated 1,863 people died, turning a local ferry run into an international tragedy dubbed Africa's Titanic. Section 3. The American Tragedies. Overshadowed by history. While many of these disasters are unknown in the West, one of the deadliest shipwrecks ever happened in America's own waters, only to be completely overshadowed by the headlines of its time. Number 5. The SS Sultana. Just weeks after the American Civil War ended, the U.S. suffered its deadliest maritime disaster, a tragedy largely forgotten, eclipsed by the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. On April 27, 1865, the steamboat SS Sultana exploded and sank on the Mississippi River. The ship was legally allowed to carry just 376 people. That day, it was carrying over 2,100, mostly Union soldiers just released from Confederate prisons, desperate to get home. The government was paying captains for each soldier they transported, creating a corrupt incentive to overload the boats. Worse, the Sultana's boilers were badly damaged and had received a shoddy, rushed repair. Around 2 a.m., 3 of the 4 boilers exploded. The blast tore the ship apart and started a fire that engulfed the wooden vessel. Hundreds died instantly, while others were thrown into the cold, flooded river. With a death toll estimated at nearly 1,800, the sinking of the Sultana is still the worst maritime disaster in U.S. history. We're about to enter the top 4 where the death tolls become truly mind-boggling. These are stories of war, chaos, and loss on a scale that's hard to imagine, hidden from mainstream history for decades. If you believe these stories need to be told, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us bring more of this forgotten history to light. Now, on to the next one. Section 4. The Forgotten Horrors of War and Civil Unrest. The deadliest maritime disasters in history are almost all tied to conflict. Stories of refugees, soldiers, and civilians caught in the crossfire, crammed onto ships sailing into war zones. Number 4. The SS Qiangya. In December 1948, as the Chinese Civil War raged, Shanghai was in chaos. On December 3rd, the steamship SS Qiangya set sail, officially carrying 2,150 passengers, already double its capacity of 1,186. In reality, with countless stowaways, it's believed nearly 4,000 people were on board. As it sailed down the Huangpu River, a huge explosion ripped through the stern, likely from a naval mine left over from World War II. Rescuers were unaware of the disaster for hours. When help finally came, they pulled about 700 survivors from the water. The final death toll is estimated to be between 3,500 and 3,920 people, making it the second deadliest peacetime maritime disaster in history. In a bizarre epilogue, the wreck was salvaged in 1956, repaired, and put back into service under a new name. Number 3. The MV Doña Paz. This next disaster is the deadliest of all in peacetime, a tragedy so horrific it's known as Asia's Titanic. On December 20th, 1987, the Philippine ferry MV Doña Paz was sailing from Leyte to Manila. Its official capacity was just over 1,500, but with people desperate to get home for Christmas, it's estimated more than 4,300 were on board. Around 10:30 p.m., the Doña Paz collided with an oil tanker carrying over 1 million liters of gasoline. The tanker's cargo ignited, creating a massive fireball that engulfed both ships and the surrounding water. Survivors described a sea of flames. The life jackets were reportedly locked away. People were forced to jump into burning oil. Both ships sank within hours. In the end, only 26 survivors were found. The official death toll is estimated at 4,385, making the sinking of the Doña Paz the deadliest peacetime maritime disaster in history. Number 2. The MV Goya. In the final chaotic weeks of World War II in Europe, the German Navy launched Operation Hannibal, a massive evacuation of troops and civilians from the path of the advancing Red Army. This operation led to the 3 deadliest ship sinkings in history. The first of these on our list is the MV Goya. Originally a Norwegian freighter, it was captured by Germany and used as a transport ship. On April 16, 1945, the Goya left the Hel Peninsula packed with an estimated 7,000 people, wounded soldiers and civilian refugees. Just before midnight, a Soviet submarine spotted the convoy and fired torpedoes, striking the Goya. The ship sank in less than 7 minutes. In the freezing Baltic, there was almost no hope. Only 183 people were rescued. It's estimated that between 6,000 and 7,000 people died, a death toll 4 times that of the Titanic. Section 5. The deadliest shipwreck in history. We've now arrived at the single deadliest shipwreck in recorded history. It's a story born from the same desperation as the Goya, but with a death toll that is almost impossible to comprehend. For decades, this wasn't just a forgotten story. It was a story that couldn't be told. Number 1. The MV Wilhelm Gustloff. Before the war, the MV Wilhelm Gustloff was the pride of the Nazi Strength Through Joy program, a luxury cruise liner. But by 1945, it was an evacuation transport. On January 30th, 1945, the Gustloff left Gdynia in occupied Poland, packed with people fleeing the Soviet army. Designed for fewer than 1,900 people, it was carrying an estimated 10,500. The passengers were a mix of soldiers, officials, and thousands of civilian refugees, nearly half of them children. The ship was armed with anti-aircraft guns, making it a legitimate military target. That night, the Soviet submarine S-13, the same one that would later sink the Goya, fired 3 torpedoes into its side. The first hit the bow, trapping crew below deck. The second hit the ship's drained swimming pool where female naval auxiliaries were quartered. Only 3 of the 373 women there survived. The third hit the engine room, knocking out all power. Panic erupted. In the freezing winter, many lifeboats were frozen to the deck and couldn't be launched. People were trampled in the chaos. Within an hour, the Wilhelm Gustloff was gone. Rescue ships managed to save about 1,200 survivors, but for thousands more, there was no escape. The final death toll is estimated to be over 9,300 people, including as many as 5,000 children. The sinking of the Wilhelm Gustloff is the deadliest single shipwreck in maritime history, with a loss of life greater than the Titanic, Lusitania, and Empress of Ireland combined. For decades, the story of the Gustloff and other German tragedies like the Goya was buried. In the aftermath of the war, German suffering was a taboo subject, overshadowed by the guilt of the Nazi regime's atrocities. It took many years for survivors to tell their stories, and for the world to learn the true scale of these events. The story of the Titanic will always be with us. It's a powerful symbol of a gilded age hitting an iceberg. But it's crucial to remember that history is filled with countless other stories, many of them far more devastating. From the frozen Baltic to the warm waters of the Philippines, these disasters remind us that human error, greed, and the horrors of war have sent thousands to watery graves we have all but forgotten. So I'm curious, what do you think? Why has the Titanic so completely overshadowed these other deadlier disasters? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.